This podcast is part of E2C Network, where we share the whole Auburn experience.
Welcome to Inside the Jungle, your show for all things Auburn basketball. I am one of your co-hosts, Chandler Fullman, and I am joined alongside with my good friend and basketball connoisseur, Jase Phillips. Jase, how's it going tonight?
I'm doing pretty good, Chandler. A lot better with my team being 7-0.
Yes, a lot better with our team being 7-0. I will tell you what, it's a lot better than being 6-1 like another team in our state.
I'd have to agree.
But our last episode we talked about the exhibition, the George Mason, and the South Florida game. And we apologize for the length of time between episodes. But this episode, we will have 5 different games to talk about and discuss with Winthrop, Texas Southern, and then our team traveled down to Cancun, Mexico, and played Bradley and Northwestern in the Cancun Challenge, and then came back home to play St. Louis in Neville Arena. So, Jase, why don't you lead us off by talking about the Winthrop game?
Yeah, so that Winthrop game, we finally started to shoot the ball pretty well. You know, first couple games, we kind of talked about how our depth is really kind of what got us through those 2 games. Didn't shoot the ball very well, but that depth really kind of pulled us through those first couple games. But going into Winthrop, we really started to shoot the ball better. I think we were almost 40% from 3. We were spreading the ball around. I think we had 3 guys scoring double figures. And we were really just starting to find a groove on offense.
Yeah, I was very impressed by the offensive output during the Winthrop game. And if I'm not correct, I want to say that is our season high in points.
I believe so.
In points scored during that game. I thought that was a very good game played by Auburn.
Yeah.
And I feel like Winthrop, it was a pretty solid team.
Yeah, I agree. They definitely had a couple of veteran leaders that gave us some trouble. But I just want to take a minute. What about Janai Broome? 18 points, 13 rebounds. I mean, if that doesn't show you the kind of player that he could be for us this season, I don't know what does.
Yeah, I will say, and probably shouldn't talk about this till later, but I can't resist. Janai Broome is a pivotal, probably I would say one of the most important players for Auburn, maybe him and Wendell Green. Not necessarily, and I do think they probably are the best 2 overall players as well. But I think they are the most important and critical players because behind Wendell and Janai is I feel like a big drop-off. After Janai, our next big man, our next best big man is not really anywhere close to Janai's skill level. I feel like our next best point guard behind Wendell. I mean, Zepp is a good point guard, but Zepp cannot shoot the ball like Wendell can.
Yeah.
And so I feel like those are our 2 most important players, in my opinion. What would you say? Would you agree?
I'd agree. They're definitely 2 of the biggest ones. I also feel like you can't leave out KD Johnson when you're talking about most important players. KD, ever since even last year having Jabari and Walker, KD was the heart and soul of that team, and he brought the energy whenever we needed somebody to come in and give us a spark. You could always count on KD to do that. And, if he missed a shot, he was going to turn around and go get a steal on the defensive end and go get the points that he wishes he would have had the last time.
Yeah, and talking about KD, that leads perfect into us talking about the Texas Southern game that Auburn won 72-56 to move to 4-0 on the season. Because KD Johnson was the leading scorer during that game. He had 16 points. Very critical was he was 6 of 6 from the free throw line, or 6 of 7 from the free throw line, 4 of 8 from the field, and 2 of 5 from the 3-point line. He was followed by two guys that are kind of surprising, kind of not surprising. Jalen Williams and Chris Moore both had 14 points.
Yeah.
I would definitely say, and I think you would agree, that Chris Moore is the more surprising of the two.
Yeah.
With that, but Chris Moore had a heck of a game.
He sure has, and he's had a heck of a start to the season. I mean, 3 for 4 from the 3-point line. I think that really stands out for a player like Chris Moore. You don't, he's not a guy that you look to necessarily be a 3-point shooter, but if he can, be that kind of threat from the 3-point line, he's a player that's hard to defend. And 3 for 3 from the line, 7 rebounds. And he plays really, really good defense without usually committing many dumb fouls. And that's something that a lot of the times hard to do for a bigger guy, especially when he'll come out and guard somebody one-on-one.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I think Chris Moore could be a pivotal player going into March with his talent and his skill set. I think that could really benefit Auburn. But why don't we go ahead and head down to the beach and head down to Cancun, Mexico, and where Auburn played in the Cancun Challenge. I had some acquaintances that went, but I've not spoken with any of them since then. But it looked like a really, really fun trip that I wish I could have gone on, and I know you wish you could have gone on. Dadgum school gets in the way.
Yeah, it does.
But it's funny how now that me and Jase have both graduated college, it really stinks how a full-time job really gets in the way of traveling for Auburn basketball. It's really disappointing. But anyways, this first game in Cancun, the semifinal game versus Bradley, in my opinion, was the best game that I have seen Auburn play this entire season so far.
I would have to agree. I know that it wasn't our season high, but as far as just shooting the basketball and defending and just, really out there having fun and clicking as a team on both sides of the ball, it's the best we've looked in any game so far.
Yeah, we had 4 different players in double digits, with Wendell and Janai both having 14.
5 players, I believe.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Wendell and Janai both having 14. KD having 13. Allen having 12. And Jalen Williams having 11. That is spreading the wealth out pretty good, I would say.
Definitely is. And what about shooting 47% from the 3 as a team?
Yeah, that was going to be the next point that I mentioned. I'm glad you mentioned that. 8 of 17 from the 3-point line. I don't know if we've made more than 4 3-pointers in a game other than this all season. Yeah. I know the first, 2 or 3 games we went 3 of 25, 4 of 25. I mean, it was pretty atrocious. And then for some reason, somehow, some way, we came out that game and shot 8 of 17 from 3, 31 of 55 from the field, shooting well above 50%, and also 15 of 20 from the free throw line for 75%. By far, I would say our best shooting night of the year.
I'd have to agree. Even from the free throw line, 75% as a team. And while I hope that, it does get a little higher compared to the first few games and how we shot the ball at the free throw line, that was a much better improvement at the line as well.
Yeah. So I think that I would agree that was a very impressive shooting performance from Auburn. And I think we should just stop there. Just go ahead and end this episode there because these next 2 games were I think my sister had a cheer growing up. It went like UGLY, you ain't got no alibi, you ugly. Yeah, you ugly. And that's what Auburn shooting was like. 43 points scored against Northwestern, and that was probably one of the ugliest basketball games I have seen, or I have ever seen, period. 43 to 42, 43 to 42, Auburn gets the win.
Yeah. And let me tell you, that speaks volumes right there, because it is very hard to stay aggressive on defense when you have absolutely nothing going your way on offense. And you're going to have games like that. And the fact that our defense, is so tough and so physical and defends the ball so well without fouling, that is going to be something that keeps us in just about every game we play, even when we're not shooting well.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And this game was similar shooting statistic as we had talked about before the Bradley game. We were 5 of 21 from the 3-point line, and 12 of 18 from the free throw line. So if my math is correct, 5 3-pointers is 15 points, then 12 free throws is 27 points. So we only had, I guess, 8 2-point baskets the entire game.
Yeah.
And that just shows you how awful the shooting was during this game.
Yeah. And what about the fact that we only forced 8 turnovers the whole game? So we forced Northwestern to take that many either bad shots because of our defensive pressure or contested shots. And, to only give up 8 turnovers, or to only turn them over 8 times, and to only give up 42 points, usually in a game like that, you're forcing them to turn the ball over a lot. But in this case, it was just every shot just about for them was contested.
Yeah. And this is just extremely random. But I see a stat line, and it is quite disappointing. Who is one player that you are surprised at how non-impressed you are he has played this year?
I would probably say, with all the hype we had coming in and how big of a flip it would be Yohan Traore.
Well, I don't disagree with that one, but I was going to say Chance Westry. Chance Westry is he's not playing bad necessarily, but after Israel, I think he was the leading scorer in Israel like 2 out of the 3 games. I am kind of sad, or I guess kind of disappointed with how Chance Westry has looked through this first 7 games. But I mean, who knows? This is, it is still very early on. We're nowhere close to conference play, so things could definitely change around. But I just saw his stat line from this Northwestern game: 0 of 3 shooting, 0 of 2 from the 3-point line, 0 of 2 from the free throw line, 0 points.
I would have to agree, but I will say with Chance, he does have the fact that he was recovering from an injury.
Yeah.
Yohan Traore, he was I believe a top 25 player.
Yeah.
And, he was a big time scorer. And, I just, for one, he's not taking a ton of shots. But I just, I was expecting to, after watching, us play in Israel, I was expecting him to step up a little bit earlier in the season.
And I will say something that I have, or something to note, is both Yohan and Chance Westry are both freshmen.
That is true. And
this is 7 games into their freshman year. We can't expect everybody to be Jabari. I mean, I know that's what we want everybody to be, but just realistically, that's not realistic. So I'm sure that both of these guys will come on strong as we go about the rest of the year, and I hope to be taking my words back about how unimpressed I am, because I really feel like they are going to come on strong and be a key part of this team especially once we enter the SEC part of the season.
I agree. They're going to have to be.
Yeah, I feel like they're going to be a strong part of the team. But something else, one quick thing I want to note from this Northwestern game is, do you know who our leading rebounder was?
Chris Moore?
Wrong. Point guard Wendell Green had 10 rebounds.
Wow.
10 rebounds. He only had 2 points, but that's not saying much compared to the rest of the team. We only had 2 guys in double figures, with KD having 12 and Jalen having 11. And 23 out of the 43 points, that's over 50% of the points from those 2 players.
Yeah.
And they had 12 and 11 points. So you know it was going to be a bad offensive night if that stat is true.
Yeah.
But somehow, some way, we pulled out the win. And that's what matters at the end of the day. And come March, when the selection committee is picking and choosing and seeding where to seed you, that's what's going to matter.
That's right.
Getting the W and not having that L. Also of note is KD Johnson was 7 of 7 from the free throw line.
Yep.
That was critical because we won by 1 point. I mean, having him go 7 of 7 was extremely important. So, great job by KD during that game.
Definitely.
But Jase, I'll let you conclude us, or not conclude the episode, but conclude us with our last game that we will discuss with St. Louis at home.
Yeah. So this was a very, very big game, and Bruce harped on that. You know, I believe in a interview after the, I believe Northwestern game, he said that St. Louis was a team that will play at home this year. You know, we'll only play about 3 other opponents that are as tough as the team of St. Louis at home. And so, I mean, he is comparing them to SEC quality opponents. I believe they were top 50 in the KenPom rankings. You know, I even had seen some preseason projections had them at even on the 5 or 6 seed line for the NCAA tournament. So this was a very, very quality opponent coming into it. And man, we just kind of saw more of just the, you know, especially in the second half, just offensively, just struggling. But defense, you know, holding strong and, you know, ultimately giving us a chance to win. And this is the game where I'm talking about a guy like KD Johnson really steps up and really brings the energy in a time where we needed it there at the end.
Yeah, I totally agree. Just something that I've got to point out from this game that was just, I guess, shocking to me was St. Louis went 3 of 3 from the free throw line during the first half. Second half, 1 of 11. 1 out of 11 free throws for 9% from the free throw line during the second half.
Well, I'm glad they did.
I mean, they had to be that bad in order for us to win, because if they would have made just, I mean, obviously, 6 more and gone, 7 out of 11, which is not good, but I mean, it's solid, but it's not good. If they had gone 7 out of 11, they would have beat us.
Yeah.
So, I guess
that's also to say we were only 63% from the line, and while that's not great, while that's not awful, it's definitely not great either.
Yeah. The only thing that I can figure, and the only thing I can contribute this to is the 1 of 11 from the free throw line for St. Louis is Coconut Brawl guy. There's a guy that wears a coconut brawl behind and gets behind the basket while the other team is shooting free throws. And, I mean, obviously it's working. I mean, 1 of 11, I mean, isn't that what you would give 100% of the success rate for Auburn to?
I mean, I guess so. I didn't know if he goes down to that goal too or not. Normally he does it when he's on the end opposite of the band, but I didn't see him. Maybe he worked his magic on the other end this game.
I mean, yeah, it was 3 of 3 from the first half, and then we go down to the other end, and it's 1 of 11. I mean, I don't think it's luck. No. It's obviously Coconut Brawl guy.
I mean, definitely.
But Wendell Green, he had 22 points during this game. It's super important. I cannot stress his importance enough. 7 of 14 from the field, 6 of 8 from the free throw line, and 2 of 6 from the 3-point line. with 22 points. The only other player in double digits was Janai Broom with 11. But just, huge game from from Wendell.
Yeah, and huge win to build our resume. I feel like we only have, very, very few tournament type opponents so far this year, and so having this win under our belt is huge. And did we play great? No. Did we play great against Northwestern? No. But in March,
Lord, no, against Northwestern.
but in March, if they see the number in the win column, that's all that's going to matter.
A win is a win.
That's right.
So that's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
But previewing the next 2 or 3 games for Auburn, they are versus Colgate this Friday night, and then we are off for over a week. And I'm guessing, I'm almost positive that this is going to be finals week for the students here at Auburn. I'm not positive.
It is. Next week is finals week. Yeah.
But that's why we are off all week. But then next Saturday we go to Atlanta and play in the Holiday Hoopsgiving exhibition game versus Memphis, which that should be a good challenge for this Auburn team. And then back home versus Georgia State on December 14th. So I think,
we have a tough road stretch there to end non-conference play. Two pretty quality Pac-12 opponents at USC and at Washington. Those would be 2 huge resume boosters, before we go into conference play.
And I don't think it's talking about the next 3 games, I don't think it's secret that Memphis is going to be the team that we're most excited to play.
Yes.
In that 3-game stretch, with the other 2 teams being Georgia State and Colgate. I did not know that Colgate had a college. That must mean that the toothpaste industry has done very well if they are able to create an entire college.
I know that they have made a run, or not a run in the tournament, but they have made the tournament and competed with a couple of real quality programs here in the past few years.
Yeah, I will say. I think last year or 2 years ago that they were a 14 seed in the tournament. So Colgate they're nothing to play around with, nothing to mess around with. But I know Jase was going to give us a quick update on the women's basketball team, and the one thing that I will, start off from that game, or from talking about women's basketball, is probably something that most Auburn fans have heard about, is the extremely poor playing conditions and extremely poor, tournament put on in Las Vegas. Jase, what can you tell us about the Las Vegas tournament? And we know it was played in a ballroom to start.
Right. Well, I don't even know if it might have even been a conference room. It was,
conference room.
I think it was even a conference room. I don't even think it was a ballroom, but we had freshman standout Carissa Richards go down in the second half. Had to wait 55 minutes for there to be any kind of medical attention or medical staff on site for the game. The court, it was obviously, games are played in ballrooms, but it was almost as if it was, just kind of thrown in there last minute. There wasn't hardly anywhere for fans to sit. Yeah, I think I saw in some of the videos, people were just standing around.
There were no stands.
Yeah.
I read that there were no stands at all. Not even 2 or 3 rows. There was none at all. So, just very poor conditions for a tournament, especially that featured Indiana, the number 6 women's basketball team in the nation.
Yeah.
And Indiana's head coach and I think a player came out and was just talked about the horrible conditions and the very disappointing conditions and how they're constantly trying to grow women's basketball and trying to grow the game. And they took a few steps back during this tournament.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. But nonetheless, Johnny Harris and company were off to a 4-2 start, which is a pretty good start for her second year on the Plains. We talked about last time she opened up with wins against Sam Houston and South Alabama, and we had kind of previewed that Georgia Tech game, just kind of talking about how big of a win that would be. And while we did come up short, man, we really competed. We had a huge, I believe we got down by either 12 or 13 at one time, and came all the way back in the second half to tie it, and ultimately we just kind of ran out of energy, got down too big too early, and ended up falling 57-51. We bounced back and beat Alabama State by about 40. I kind of feel like, even though that's a game you're expected to win, I feel like that kind of gave our girls some confidence going into Las Vegas. And while we did come up short against number 6 Indiana, man, we really competed. I believe even going to the fourth quarter, we had kept it within a 10-point game. And, Auburn even competing with a top 10 ranked program at the time, that was something that we didn't even hear of 4 or 5 years ago. So just in her second year, she's already beat one top 5 ranked team and competing with the number 6 ranked team this year. I really think that just kind of shows the good direction that Coach Harris, Coach Jay has us going in. And then getting a big win against Colorado State to finish out that Las Vegas tournament. I believe Colorado State had only lost one game. So they were a very decent ball club. And we defeated them 74-73. Honesty Scott Grayson and Aisha Coulibaly both scoring 16. Really, really excited for this team, and I really think they have a lot of potential. I believe we face Little Rock at home tomorrow, and then coming up, I believe, Saturday, we have UCF. And UCF's women's program is kind of hit the ball running here the last couple of years. I believe they made the tournament and maybe won a couple games last year. So UCF's women's program is really good, and that'll be a really big resume booster if we could somehow find a way to win at home against UCF.
Yeah.
But all of that, just it shows, what Coach Jay is trying to create here and establish, and these women are really buying into what she's doing, I feel like.
Yeah, I think our women's basketball is trending in the right direction, most definitely, and I'm excited to see where they will go. The last minute or two of this episode, we would be failing if we did not mention at least Coach Hugh Freeze being hired as the Auburn football coach.
Definitely.
And while he does obviously come with some baggage, I am personally excited about his future at Auburn University, and I think we can all agree that we've all done some things wrong in the past, and I think, if you're a believer in Jesus Christ, if you ask for forgiveness, I think that's enough. And who are we to judge?
That's right.
What happens while here on earth? That's just my personal opinion, but I am one person that is excited about the future of Auburn football under Coach Hugh Freeze.
Definitely.
So,
looking forward to it.
But that'll do it for this episode of Inside the Jungle. We will hopefully be back here in about a week or a week and a half, maybe right after the Memphis game on December 11th or December 12th. Our episode will air, hopefully. to discuss the Memphis and the Colgate game. But like I said, that'll do it on this time on Inside the Jungle, and War Eagle.
War Eagle.
Thank you for tuning in to today's episode on the E2C Network. On your way out, I want to remind you to stop by e2cnetwork.com. It's your one-stop shop for all our content across our podcast, YouTube channel, and much more. To stay up to date with us, make sure you're following social media accounts such as Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. While our content here may always be Auburn sports heavy, if it's orange and blue, it's what we do. War Eagle.